Hello, podcast lovers. Thank you so much for coming back. I'm your host, Jana. And today it's so crazy exciting. I have the privilege of having somebody on here that I met at an amazing mastermind seminar. And she is such an inspiration for myself. And I personally had the privilege of being in her company privately, but also kind of like in business aspects. And I'm so excited for you, Sabine, to be here. Thank you, first of all, so much for agreeing to be my guest and to help me on my journey and to agree to take time out of your so busy schedule to be a part of this. I'm so very grateful for you to be here. Hi.
Wow, thank you for the beautiful introduction. It's my pleasure being here. Thank you.
Yes, I'm so excited because I want to voice one thing from the very moment, and I don't know if I've ever told you, but I think it's really due to tell you. When I first met you at that mastermind seminar, you seriously blew me away with your energy. And I'm still getting goosebumps by saying this. Like your energy captivated not myself only, but I felt like the room. Like when you walked
Oh,
around and you introduced yourself to everybody, including me, I was like, who is this person? I was so blown away by your charismatic ways and the way you were carrying yourself and the way you verbally expressed yourself. And then when you started to speak on your personal journeys and all the things you have been doing in your own life and you know, um, the obstacles that you had to face when we had private conversations were just so tremendously sitting in my core because I was like, I thought I had a challenging obstacles that I needed to face, but I was like, how did she do that? It was fascinating getting to know you and fascinating
thank you.
hearing about your story. And I think your story is so worth sharing. So if you don't mind, if you just want to share a little bit how really everything kind of like before you became a serial entrepreneur, how did everything started for you? Like where was the beginning?
So let me see how we can put this in a little nutshell. So I'm originally from Germany, just like you, but from the southern part of Germany. And I left Germany when I was 17. And I went by myself to Canada at 17. And I went to school there for a couple of years to high school and then ended up going to university. But I had to take care of myself and had to figure it out on my own. And I had one summer in Toronto, and where I didn't go back to Germany to like take a summer job so I could pay for myself. So I stayed. I told my parents I had a job, and I stayed with friends, and I didn't go back. And I started my first company. I think it was like 19, 20, between 19 and 20, and I had this idea of starting an export company from Canada. And like today, I look back, and the thing is, I have twins. They're now almost 22, but when they were like 17, it was unimaginable for myself to think, like these kids are gonna walk off now onto a different continent and just do their thing, right? So, like today, I look back and I'm thinking, oh my God, this could have gone so wrong. But somehow I was very focused, I was very determined, and yeah, I had nowhere to go. I was homeless that entire summer, and I started, like, really literally started that first business on a park bench in Toronto on Yonge and Bloor. And I had $3 left in my name. That was it. And I somehow made it work and I made it happen. And that was the beginning of my serial entrepreneurial journey. And I look back today and I think, wow, I was so fearless. Like to me, back then, there was never a doubt that I would make this happen. I never thought, oh, what if this doesn't work out? And like it never occurred to me. And I think that's like this is what works in our favor when we're beginners at something and we're not so jaded yet. And we're just like, no, I'm going to do this. Of course, I'm going to do
Yeah.
this. Like, so yeah, that was the beginning. And then I put myself through school and put my brothers through school. And then I graduated, university, and I decided not to take a job. I went to a business school and I had job offers, and I was like, no, I have, at that point, the business was going so well. I was like, nothing could be better than this. I have my freedom, I make tons of money, I travel, and no, I don't want to take on a job, to the disappointment of my parents, who were like, you should get a job and a title. And I was like, no, I don't need that. And I ended up expanding the Canadian company into the US. And that's how I got to the US in 96. And also because at the time I was dating somebody and we were engaged and we're supposed to get married. And I was like, oh, perfect. I'm going to grow the business into the US and be with him. And I ended up not getting married. I ran away from my wedding and just focused on my business for a few years, and yeah, built that business. And then one business led to another. And, like a year and a half ago, I sold my last company and retired. And then I had kids in the meantime. I was never married. And after I sold the company, my kids finished high school and they left. They both went to Europe. I was sitting in LA thinking, and now what? What am I going to do with the second half of my life? And I didn't want to be, because I'm so addicted to like seeing opportunities and connecting the dots. And I was already seeing new opportunities. I'm like, oh, I could do this now, I could do that now. But I had realized just before I sold the company, and that was really the reason why I sold the business, because I realized that it wasn't fulfilling me anymore. I had hit a wall where I was cleaning up my office and I found an old vision board. And I realized, looking at that vision board, I had checked every single box and then some. And all of a sudden, my North Star was gone. And I saw no more point. I was like, and now what? You got to do more of the same. So you collect more zeros. What's the point? What's the point? And I kept asking myself, is this really it? Like,
Mhm.
I've achieved all of that and I feel no different. What's the
Mhm.
point?
Mhm.
So, and then once I sold the company afterwards, I said, I don't want to slide into the next thing, because that's what I do. I just do one thing after another. I don't want to do that anymore. And I ended up selling everything I owned, cars, house, all my furniture, most of my clothes. I sold everything. I narrowed everything down to 2 suitcases on December 31st, 23. I got on a plane to Munich and said, I'm going. I don't know if I'm ever going to be back. I'd have no answers. And people thought I was crazy. People were like, what are you, midlife crisis? And I'm like, no, actually, it's a total opposite. I'm actually really waking up to like, what the hell am I going to do next? What is it going to be? And not in a
Mhm.
like negative kind of a way, but like,
Right.
I want to make it count. I don't want to just hustle, hustle, hustle with no goal in mind. Like, no, I want to make it count.
Mhm.
And so I put myself on a mountain for 11 months. I sat on a mountain in Germany, in a little farmhouse apartment, furnished little apartment, and found back to
You.
me. Like, and I can't
Yeah.
even say to my old self, because I don't think I ever like knew what that was, like
Right.
I was running like since 17, just like,
Yeah.
so I never knew what that was, but it was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done, to put myself into isolation for that long. It's really, really hard when you come from living in LA, or you have a busy life and you were a busy mom, a busy business owner, and you had social events and mastermind groups and like being pulled in a million different directions and now we're going to sit on a mountain and just be comfortable with ourselves.
Yeah. I'm wondering if it's fair to say that you kind of lost yourself in being successful. Like,
Oh, for sure.
when we're so busy and determined, which is such a great characteristic to have in general, like really being determined and being driven and knowing exactly what you want. And, you don't accept anything less, and you have your personal boundaries, and you have your business boundaries, and you know how to really harmonize all of that out. But I'm wondering sometimes, when we get to that place, that what you so nicely described, you know, we now here, we have it basically all. We achieved it all financially that we can ever possibly achieve, and then some, and even more. And there's actually more opportunities to achieve. But what really is the core
Right.
of the existence at the moment for one? You know, like what is
Right.
all of this really mean personally to oneself? To look at all the success and look at all the beautiful things that you can obviously afford when you are financially successful, which is a great thing to do, because I feel like
Yeah.
everybody has the drive. Like, you know, I wish I could have this beautiful home and like a beautiful car, and I'm gonna go get that, and then I'll be good. But then, when when does the point become enough is enough, and when is enough really enough? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
did you ever, I'm so curious, did you ever had like for yourself like a goal, like a financial number in mind, where you're like, okay, if I hit that, then I made it and I'm good, and then I don't know what then, or then I retire? Was that ever, or was that never even a thought? It just you just kept going, or how was that for you?
No, I had a number and I didn't even realize when I surpassed that number, it wasn't even relevant anymore. And it wasn't even about ego, you know, it wasn't even that. But I think, and there's two parts to this. So I know I'm not alone in this because now the work that I do, I get to work with a lot of people like me. And I knew from my experiences also, like the people that I worked with and the mastermind groups I was in with people that were very successful, like way beyond what I have done, uh, were some of the most miserable people in the world. And then I knew from travels into like remote jungles in Malaysia, in the Andaman Sea, and in Fiji, like we stayed on a remote island for almost a month, you know, and to meet these tribes and these people who have really nothing. Like there's no paved roads, there's no running water, there's no electricity. They don't even wear shoes, you know, and they're some of the happiest people in the world, you know. It's like, okay, what is wrong with this picture? And I I wasn't like I wasn't ashamed of feeling that way because I knew there's something bigger. There's something else to strive for. And I was glad that I had recognized that I could stop running. But I also felt an obligation to say, okay, so now what? Like, what else is there? But it was a process that didn't happen overnight. I mean, when I found that vision board and it really hit me, I got really depressed. I had a really hard time. I didn't care whether I lived or died anymore. And I did some stupid things because I didn't value life anymore because I was like, what's the point? You know, I would have never harmed myself because I love my children too much. I would have never done that. But at the same time, there was many nights I went to bed where it was like, I just don't want to wake up anymore. What's the point?
Yeah.
Like, if this is
Yeah.
over, that's fine. And
Mhm.
then I voiced it to my coach because I was a professional bodybuilder. That was another thing. Like I was like, push harder, get bigger, get stronger, you know, to a point where it's like, and now what? Like you're freaking Wonder Woman. You like press 760 pounds. Like what's next? Where even the gym owner came up to me and said, you got to stop. And I was like, why? Like I have nothing else to strive for. But so I was talking to my coach and I said, I'll do whatever. I don't care. I don't care whether I live or die. It doesn't matter. And I could not even being negative, but just truthfully, like it doesn't matter. I've achieved it all. Like, what's the point, you know? And he then introduced me to somebody, a mentor, a spiritual mentor, who took me to the next level and taught me that I am actually way more powerful than I give myself credit for. And that there is an obligation that I do have a purpose beyond financially taking care of myself, but I have an obligation to humanity to share some of
Mhm.
my gifts. And that I worked with him, I think, for like almost 3 years, every week.
Mhm. Mhm.
And he gave me a whole new perspective on who I was. And that then, you know, opened myself up to doing what I did of just saying, you know what, screw all this. The materialistic stuff, whatever, just get rid of it all, disconnect. I don't want to continue in this hamster wheel. I need to do something else. I need to remove myself and really sit with this and figure out what that is.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, it was super hard because only when we sit like in complete isolation do we realize all the band-aids that we've been using to fill these voids that we're like putting under the rug and where we're like, oh, let's just have some whiskey. Whiskey became a really good friend of mine. And like I always said, Johnny Walker was one of my best buddies. Like we hung out every night. And but it was like to fill this void. And I need an even faster car, or I need to leg press even heavier. So it's we realized what these things are, and it became really clear to me sitting on this mountain, like, oh, no gym, no whiskey. Uh, Nobody cares about the car you drive. Like it became really apparent, and it was like an addiction to all the things that filled that these band-aids that I had that filled that void, and I had to let go of all of them. And
Yeah.
and I did. And once I got comfortable with being by myself and being with myself and facing some of these demons that I've been putting under the rock for too long, it became really awesome. Like
Yeah.
really awesome. It became really clear to me what I had to do in order to like live a really like an aligned life and a life that's like success that's truly aligned to who I am and what makes my life for me personally meaningful and fulfilling. And it's such an inside job. Like it's
Hmm.
so unique to every single one of us.
Right.
And it's changed my life. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I really resonate with so many things that you're saying because really truly, when we talk about being successful, there's obviously many ways of how we can define being successful, right?
yeah,
And of course, the first thing that, normally so many humans go to is, well, if I have a lot of money in my bank, I'm successful, or if I have this title, it makes me successful. And I'm not negating away from that. I think that's a beautiful accomplishment if you accomplish these goals, if they, like you said, are really aligning with who you are and who you were created to be, because it's really, it goes so fast that we lose track of what we are in ourselves to who we are to ourselves, and that all of that self-respect and the self-care and the, really listening to our own inner becomes almost irrelevant because you have this huge to-do list and you have this way of being executing all these tasks at the same time, and you almost became robotic about having to hit the next goal because now you do have responsibilities within those roles too. And there's so much little time for solitude within your own self. There's so little time for just really asking yourself on daily basis, how do I really feel today? Am I really okay? Do I need like a nice snack that makes me happy? Or do I maybe need like to sit in the grass or go to a nice, I don't know, a library or like an art museum or something other than what I normally bother myself with? When was the last time I actually took myself out on a date? Like just me and me for like a nice cup of coffee with no phone. We rarely get to do that because we're so programmed to be on this phone so often, and our whole life depends on the phone, and our whole life is within inside a cell phone, that it becomes such a normality to not even envision your life anymore, just going to a hilltop in Germany or any other beautiful country and sitting somewhere on a
mhm,
mountain by yourself. This is almost now unnormal to do
right.
because yeah, it became such an normality to be like always doing something, always around people, always in the mix, always all that noise and blah 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 blah. But where is the time where you actually need to recharge? And I get it, there's extroverts and there's introverts, and I get it. Those humans that are really created to be extroverts, they don't mind. They might need recharging time half from an introvert, but even they need sometimes time to just come back to themselves. And so I think when we have all these amazing responsibilities and they're heavy, because when you were speaking, it sounded to me like strongholds. It almost sounded like there is so like you're in chains, but you're free in a sense, but you really are in chains because you don't know when and what and how and front, back, stop. I don't know. None of it made you happy anymore. So I'm so happy for you that you had the courage to actually face you. Face really those deep-rooted questions that are so scary. They're so scary to really go so deep within your own self and really ask yourself, why am I so unhappy? What makes me, what is really my reasoning? Why am I still here? What is the whole point? It's such a scary question to ask
It
actually yourself.
is.
Because in this time when you're sitting asking this, you're not distracted. You only have your truth that is answering back, hopefully. And then when you connect the dots, it's like, oh my God, I almost missed life. I almost missed living life. Like it went away and I did all these things, but I don't remember any of them anymore.
Right. And like, what were they good for? It's,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I feel like for me, my whole life has brought me to this, like all of my struggles, all of the things, whether it's homelessness or infertility I struggled with for years, or a home invasion where I was attacked in my sleep, or cancer, or the accident I had that destroyed my face, or the cancer I had in my face and I lost half of my nose. Like there's so many stories which they've all brought me to this, and like
Mhm.
I am no victim at all, Like I really, really, truly believe today that every single struggle I've had has prepared me for this and has become not just a gift for me to make myself stronger, like come out stronger on the other side, but also has been a gift for me to now share with others. And that's really the conclusion I came to after 11 months. I realized that it's time to give back and it's time to help others, not just with the achieving part, but the achieving part in an aligned way. So people can feel the way that I feel today. It's because making money, honestly, that's easy. Like I can help people make money all day long, but to do it in a way and help people do it in a way where they're actually really excited to get out of bed in the morning and where they go to bed at night and they're like, oh my God, I am freaking dead, but I feel so good, like with what I did today.
Mhm.
Now that's a
Yeah.
whole different story. That's a whole
Yeah.
different way of living your life. So I'm all for making money. I'm all for creating that financial freedom and that freedom for yourself and your family and your kids and all of that. But let's do it in a way that it's aligned with our core values, what's important to us,
Right.
and a big part of that is, and I believe that is that giving back, serving others is a big part of it. And it has gotten confirmed. Look, the people like in the blue zones who live the longest, one of the biggest reasons why they live the longest is because they live in community and until their very last breath, they contribute to the community and they give back, they serve others. And that's what fulfills us and that's what gives our lives meaning. And there is this basic human need, which is exactly what differentiates us from AI,
Right.
is the need to question our existence and to want to evolve. And AI doesn't have that, and it will never have that because it doesn't have a consciousness. But we have that consciousness, which means we're always going to feel that desire, that urge. Okay, what's next? But if we have a consciousness, which we do, and we have an awareness to tap into this and say, okay, yes, but it's not just about collecting zeros. It's not just about having the bigger car because that's going to wear off in a day, two, maybe a week if you're lucky, but create really a meaningful, fulfilling life that we can do by flexing that muscle of going inside and saying, okay, wait a second, what is
Mhm.
really going to fill me up? How can I
Mhm.
create freedom and financial freedom in a way that fills my cup, that makes me
Mhm.
truly happy, truly excited to put in the hours, to
Mhm.
work super hard? And that's where I'm today. Today, I'm like, I honestly, I think I work harder, I work more hours than I did in the last 10 years. Because there, last 10 years, it was kind of on autopilot. Business was running, I was making money, that was all great. You know, I was more concerned about, okay, how do I entertain myself next? But now I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah, it
this
seems like
is,
it's more conscious. It seems like it's just
yes,
more awake. Like everything's just more awake now, like all that internal thing that was put to sleep unconsciously is now all of a sudden waking up. And it's like, oh my God, and speaking of AI, I feel like the other part that it will never have is that true human emotion and that authenticity that we all are born with, that
right,
true creatorness within inside of ourselves, because we are created by the biggest creator. So we have that ability to create. And I know that AI is amazing and it's amplifying so many cool things and it can help in so many great aspects. But really that emotional part of it and really that connection that only two really human, like soul-filled human people can have, that's that's impossible to achieve through a computer. That's just
right.
impossible because we need each other as humankind. We do need people like you. We need people that remind us on those things, like, hey, you're being successful, but are you internally okay though? Are you really internally happy? And matter of fact, what does actually make you happy? Matter of fact, who are you again? Who are you? Oh, you don't know? You don't remember? Oh, let's talk about that. You know what I mean? Because we forget so often really where we come from once and what really does matter, because it's such a fine line between putting goals and having aspirations and being successful and being such a doer and such a driver, but then also always remembering, like they say, to smell the roses in between, to take, to really appreciate solitude, to appreciate when you have it financially, when you have the time. Go on somebody's LinkedIn, go on somebody's Instagram, go on somebody's something, support them with a like, with a comment, with a repost, whatever. It doesn't cost anything. It's just a human kindness that comes from one itself wanting to contribute, wanting to help. But the fact that we constantly have to remind each other on those things, shows that we're so wrapped up in our own projects and we're just so tunnel vision of going to go get certain things done, but we forget what really life truly really is about, like those people in the village that you talked about earlier. They
Yeah.
don't they don't worry about any of this. They just wake up and they're grateful that they're healthy, that they're grateful that they have whatever they have. And they're just grateful when they sit together and everybody's laughing and having a sort of like a good time with each other. And isn't that really what life really is about? A nice food, a nice bowl of food, and a great conversation and great, company and like brilliant minds that come together and create. Like it's the best.
It is. And it's, when I came back, I realized, so this is what I want to do. I want to help others. And then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna, mentor, guide others. And then I realized I came back to this world and I'm like, holy crap, that is really hard to do because there's so much noise out there and so many people are like coaches and mentors and all of that. And I for a moment I got sucked into that. I was like, oh my God, I need to learn how to do Instagram and I need to learn how to do LinkedIn. I wasted a bunch of money on programs, until I realized I was like, okay, wait a second. We just left all of this behind. Let me take a step back. What have I realized? And I got rid of it all except like I got rid of all of my social media except LinkedIn. And I said, I'm gonna do it my way. I'm gonna lean into what I have just learned over the last year. And I
Mhm.
started to work on my LinkedIn in my way. I didn't do any of the stuff that they told me to do. I said, this is
Right.
about my number one goal is human connection. So I started to book calls. In the first 2 months that I was back, I had over 150 calls on LinkedIn. And it was interesting because people are really jaded. Like I would reach out to people where I thought, oh, I like what they're doing. This is vibing the same as I am. I think they're really like we would be really good to know each other, to support each other, to collaborate. Maybe I can support them with some of my wisdom that I have, and I would reach out to people, and a lot of people would be like, what do you want? What are you trying to sell me? And it was really interesting because it was like, nothing. I want nothing from you. I have nothing to sell to you. I'm just here because
To
I
say
want
hi.
to build relationships. And I think this whole era now is about collaboration. It's no longer about competition. I think when we support each other, we can achieve so much more, and life is so much richer and so much better. So
Yeah.
let's have a conversation. What are you up to? What do you need help
Yeah.
with? And
Yeah.
I started to become known for that. And I went away from all the stuff that I had read about, oh, this is how you need to create content. I was like, I am just going to spill my soul. I'm going to share authentically what's going on, what I see, what I feel, professionally, but authentically, and see if
Mhm.
this resonates with anybody. And I
Mhm.
remember talking to my father, and he said, you were posting on LinkedIn. I saw it. And I said, yeah. And he was like, what you write there is nonsense. Nobody cares what you have to say. And I was like, just try me. Let me try this. And I just kept posting. And now, yeah, I don't have hundreds of thousands of followers, but I have enough followers to have an amazing community that's engaged with me daily in my posts.
Yeah.
And I constantly have people come to me on a weekly basis. We're like, I want to work with you. And not because I'm super polished or because I'm doing it to a certain strategy, but because I am putting human connection first. And I am putting my authenticity, my genuine desire to help
Right.
others first.
Right.
I am never out there, and you know that, with a sales pitch. I'm like, oh, I want to sell you this, I want to sell you that. No,
No. Right. No.
people have
No.
conversations with me, and then they're like, actually, I think you
Yeah.
can help me, and
Can
then
we
I
talk
either
more?
just help, or
Yeah.
if it's a bigger thing, okay, let
Mhm.
me see how I can help you.
Yeah.
But it's a very
Mhm.
different approach, but I think it's a testament to what's going out there in general. I think people are sick and tired of the funnels and the manipulation and the sales tactics and all of that stuff. And they're looking to truly connect with people and to build trust and to
Mhm.
build relationships and to then maybe eventually ask for help. But that's what's happening. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing that just fills my heart so much that I'm like, okay, I want to do more of this. Oh my God, I
Yeah,
want to do more.
and I feel like, an attitude like that and a way of approaching it from this perspective or with this kind of mindset, just really it's a two-way street. Everything that you're putting in will automatically come back to you
Right,
because this isn't coming from an ego place. It's not coming anymore from that. And I'm not saying that's you, Sabine, but I'm saying in general, that place when we're wanting to make the deal, when we're wanting to sell, when we need that deal, when we need it to make go through, like we're not coming anymore out of a place of a need, but we're
right,
coming out of a place of like, this is really truly what I want to do. And it's okay. Like if this deal doesn't go through, that's fine. If we're not having to collaborate, if whatever, that's also fine. But look, we had a great conversation,
right,
because what I found out from my own life is every time when I did allow myself to just be so open and to just really connect, I always learned something out of this conversation. Something was said from that person that was sitting across from me that I've never heard in my life before, or I didn't look at it that way. I got a different perspective. I got a different point of view, even though I already knew the topic. But it's so interesting when we're just allowing ourselves to just really go about the human connection and nurturing community versus I gotta make the sale, I gotta survive. It's
right.
all about me. Let me talk about my business. Let me this. Oh, hi, who are you? All, and people right away talk about their businesses. It's like this isn't really I don't, and honestly, I don't really feel like back in the days this was how real business was conducted anyway. You know, like a gentleman's business to me was always like they had a nice dinner, they had like a cigar with each other, they had like a nice cocktail or a nice appetizer or something, and they had private conversation. Everybody knew about everybody's life, their family, their wives, their kids, their whatever. And then when we connected, when we catched up personally, this is when we drove
Right.
into business, and then we shook hands, you know, like very old school, very gentlemanlike. And then that was the agreement. And people kept their word. You know, it was literally like if you looked in somebody's eyes and you seriously said to them something you really meant from the heart and
Right.
you were authentic and they were authentic, then that was it. There was no need of, you know, and I'm not saying contracts are nothing. I'm not, that's not all I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say, I'm just trying to amplify on the human side of like,
Right.
look, all we have is our words. That's all we got. And I know that we all got burned, we all got lied to, we all got cheated on, we all got mistreated, we everybody experienced that. But you know, if we allow ourselves to trust again and to just be like, look, this is authentically who I am. You know, I'm gonna do it
Right.
my way. I'm not no cookie cutter person. I'm not copying anybody's style. I'm not doing it, whatever. I'm just really doing what feels right to me. I think those people that are really on the same and energetic vibrational level, they automatically will come just in your
Oh yeah.
vibe and be, and it's so much more intense and it's so much more real. Like there's just so much realness in that versus this whole forcing of trying, having to make this deal or having to connect with this person because of this and this and that and that. So it's I'm so happy that, you know, a really successful human being like yourself, it really is practicing such easy ways of life, which is not so easy to get back to. You know, it's obviously a journey to
No, and
transition back.
you know, I think there's a lot of programming that we have
Mhm.
received in our lives, you know,
Yeah.
and then there is also you lose a lot of people on that journey. You know, like I have lost a lot of people who were like, oh, like you're crazy, you're giving up your business, and oh, what, you have a midlife crisis, or like how can you be so selfish, you know, to do this to your family?
Mhm.
Well, no, I'm actually, my kids already left to Europe. Like this is not being, but like that you have to justify
Yeah.
these steps and this journey of, and or like there's only very few people who get this. But I also have to say, the thing is, and I always emphasize this, that was my way on taking on this journey because that's kind of what presented itself and what I saw that I had to do in order to get out of this hamster wheel and not just jump back into it. That was my thing.
Mhm.
But I am not saying that everybody needs to like pack up and leave. You know, like that
Right.
is not the case. But, and it's very individual and to the circumstances, but you know, it's like I have conversations with people where they're like, well, you're so lucky financially you could do that. And then I have conversations with them and I ask them a few questions about, okay, so where are you at? And where would you like to see yourself? And what is holding you back? And it turns out every single time that your circumstances are an excuse
Mhm.
because there's million little steps you can take in
Mhm.
order to change your environment. And
Mhm.
I mean, when I sat on that park bench in Toronto and had $3 left to my name, I didn't have a golden spoon in my mouth. Like I wasn't privileged. And like we all have crappy situations we have to deal with. But, and this is where this comes in, what I really, really believe is that when we have the consciousness, the awareness of the power of choice that we have. We, each
Mhm.
one of us have, we have that power of choice to decide to want things differently and to decide to do things differently. And it's like, I always say, it's like, you don't climb a mountain in one big freaking leap. You climb a mountain by one single little step at a time. And that's how
Right.
we change our environment. That's how we change our circumstances by the choices that we make. Every single little choice of when you get up in the morning, of what you have for breakfast to how much exercise you get, uh, how you respond to things that are thrown your way, even
Right.
little things, how upset you get about things that piss you off and you let it ruin your day, or there's the power of choice in every single thing that we do. And if we think we can just ignore it and let it be, that's a choice too. And then you choose to be okay with that. So,
Mhm.
and I think that is so, so important to realize that no matter how shitty it is,
Yeah.
there is, we have a choice on how we respond to the shittiness and
Yeah.
what we do
And
with it, and not despite of it, but because of it, and how
right.
we let it define us and our world and our reality.
Right. Yeah, and I would like to add to that, it's the choice very much so of how you're really going about it, but also it's just the radical acceptance part sometimes. Just for you to really radically
Right,
accept that it just simply is what it is at the moment. And to just find something within that acceptance where you're like, you know what? It is really bad and it's not cool at all, but I'm okay, because I have faith and I'm rooted into something bigger than myself, and just really understanding what then really fundamentally where you really come from and who really created you, because those are the things where when people say either do you have faith or you don't, right? Because you can have faith when everything is great and everything is going well and yeah, that's amazing and rah, 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 but listen, you're being tested in your faith is when really stuff goes the left side. Then it's like, okay, do I really believe that I'm going to be okay? Like you when you explained that, you never once thought of will I make it happen? You just knew for yourself. You made a conscious decision in that moment. This is what's going to happen for me. This is what's going to happen for me. I don't even waste my time in figuring out how and when and what. I will waste my time in just creating what I truly believe is going to make me happy and drive me to be successful. And all I will do is invest my energy in that, like looking at from the end of it versus looking on the path and the 1,000 pluses that have to be calculated to get to the end. But if we
right.
really look from the end of it, kind of like from a bird's view, like where is it really that I want to be? Like what is really my true inner goal? And hopefully that aligns with your heart's goal too, because those are the best. Like it's one thing to be really conscious in your mind, but it's so amazing if your mind and your heart are so aligned and they walk together, because it's the most powerful thing that can ever happen to oneself, but it's also the most difficult thing to keep at harmony, at balance, because the mind is tricky. It
Yes.
plays tricks on us. So that's really challenging to maintain in that. But
But
yeah,
there's
what
a
you
bunch of
said.
different strategies. Like faith is a
Mhm.
big one, but there's a
Right.
bunch of other
Yeah.
strategies that I have recognized over time. Like, I think there's a lot of them that before I knew really any of this, and I
Mhm.
just did. I was a doer and I just did things. Um,
Mhm.
I wasn't afraid to like leap off that pier and figure it out while I was doing it. I wasn't an
Yeah.
overthinker. Like, but all of these things I didn't know back then. I just did it. Like intuitively, I knew what I had to do. But now that I look back, I realize like, oh, and I've done a lot of work on this, a lot of research, a lot of thinking, and to realize what the different strategies, the different tools are that will help us hang in there, that will
Mhm.
help us to get up this next time,
Mhm.
that will help
Mhm.
us to still keep going. And there's different kinds of ways, perspectives, and tools that we can use. And
Mhm.
so today, that's what I help people with, to say, okay. And it's almost like you give people a coat to try on, and say, okay, so try on this coat and see how it feels. Because just because
Right.
something worked for me, it doesn't mean it's going to work for somebody else. But most likely,
Mhm.
I do have a few tools in my toolbox that would help somebody. So try on that coat for a day, see how it feels. Is it too tight? Does it feel good on you? Is it too hot? Is it too cold? Like, what is it, you know? And try on different kinds of coats and see what makes you stronger and what makes you get through these hurdles. Because the reality is, and I don't
Right.
care how good it is and where you're at in life, life's gonna keep throwing curveballs at you no matter what. You will never figure it out. None of us will ever figure it out. But so we won't control it, but we can learn to manage it. And that's really, I think, the highest goal that we can have, to
Right.
learn to manage the curveballs that come at us and say,
Yeah.
ah, I have flexed this muscle often enough to know
Hmm.
how to respond to that. I'm not going to lose my shit. I'm very cool
Right.
about this. And I also know, like I have faith, but I also know because I have looked at my life and I know I have managed a bunch of curveballs before, that life always works out.
Right.
So there's
Yeah.
that too. Like there's so many tools
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
we can bring awareness to, that we can learn to manage life better. But it all starts with a choice to say, okay, are you going to be a freaking victim? You're going to put your head in the sand. You're done with it. Okay, then you know what? Don't even waste my time. Or you're like, no, I'm going to kick this in the ass. I'm going to
Yeah.
make this work. I'm going to figure this
Yeah.
out. Who's with
Yeah.
me? And
Yeah.
then the
Exactly.
right people will show up at the right time, but you have the responsibility to choose.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm honestly, I'm just so curious right now because, it seems like you've done it all, but what's next? Like what, I mean, you were a serial entrepreneur, you're a mom, like, you did all these things. You not only created your own 1,000 million successful businesses, but you helped others to create the very same for themselves. Then you retired. Now you're doing all of this stuff for people where you kind of like helped them to get mentally, emotionally, spiritually, business-wise, financially on a aligned path. But what's next? I mean, like, is there a next anyway?
Yes, there's a next. I realized that I, as much as I realized, like, I don't know, like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that I do have a gift, a purpose, a reason for being here.
Mhm.
Um, I have, I feel like every day that a light inside of me shines even a little brighter and a little brighter. And so I'm working with people one-on-one. That's really all I do, is one-on-one working, because I do believe that we're all different and that we all work differently. And I don't believe in like massive coaching programs and here, let me, like, here's a link and here's the solution for everybody. I don't believe in that. So I work with people one-on-one. But what I also realized is my desire to have more impact, to share my message and all of the messages, the wisdom, the tools that I have, share that
Mm.
with more people. And I'm really, really super excited about it. And so the next thing I really want to do is really go into speaking more and sharing these things on larger platforms with people, so I can
Mhm.
have a wider reach than with what I'm doing right now. And I also really, really believe in the power of like meeting in person. Like, as much as this is awesome, like to do this over Zoom and talk to people over Zoom, and I'm so grateful I can help people in all different parts of the world. But what really gets me really, really happy and excited is when I can be in person and I can just enter, like you said, like I can feel it, like entering the
Yeah.
room and
Right.
sharing my energy with people and having that impact on people. It's so
Mhm.
beautiful to me that
Mhm.
it's really clear to me that this is my next step of
Yeah.
really learning a little bit about this, on where can I go, where can I speak, who wants to hear from me, and
Yeah.
really honing in on my message and then sharing it and starting that in the next few months. And that's what I'm currently working on, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, and I don't blame you because I think you're obviously very intuitive, and so I think you're obviously on the right path, and you picked the complete right next step for yourself, because I can just see what a amazing, great, successful public speaker, you know, is right now sitting here in front of me and then maybe filling so many stages and just, you know, sharing that really that inner light, you know, because this is really what life is about, you know.
Yeah.
We have to share this light. And sometimes, you know, this is not about being cool with everybody, being liked by everybody. It's just really about a respect, you know, like as long as we keep that in mind that we need to respect each other no matter what, but we are allowed to live our own truth in our own way. um, that's what we hear, you know, it's
Yeah.
our birthright to live out what we're really wanting to live out and live life to the fullest, you know. And so I'm so happy for you. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait to come to your first public major big speaking engagement. I'll be there first row. I
Thank
cannot
you.
wait for you know to see how all of this will evolve for you. So, you know,
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you. And I'm so grateful that you really took the time and that you opened up your heart and your stories and you shared really personal things today, because I think it's really important to understand that even really the most successful people out there, they're going through it too, you know. And sometimes we don't see that, you know, we just see the glitz and the glam and the fun and the, you know, the amenities and the benefits that those humans have, and we don't see the struggle. So I'm very blessed that you opened up, you know, because this was real talk. So
Yes, I
thank
really
you.
appreciate it. And I always enjoy our time together. And
Same.
yeah, let's see where this all goes. I'm very excited. Thank you.
Yes, me too. Well, there you have it, podcast lovers, another great episode. And as always, if you feel you want to be a part of this amazing movement, come and join me. Tell me your story. My mic is always open for you. But until then, stay rooted, stay blessed, and always stay connected to love, the strongest force in the universe.